You do? Yeah. We're live. Crossing the turn. Something didn't have time to make a flyer, just printed that.
Oh, so you don't have the name here?
Yeah, it is. It is at the bottom.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Just want to give you a shakayach to Shaar and Lizzie Ross sponsoring their Shiur. Zechnish Miss Lizzie's father, Shlomo Zalmanach, ben there. The Shemesh HaGdaliyah and the function of Simcha Nachas and Nach.
Amen.
Okay, let's learn. So I hope you still have the pages from Hakitzu Mirananu, from Rav Sasson, Chaim, Hakitzu Mirananu. We began learning about the madregas of Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chai Yechida that are not only in the individual person, but in Am Yisrael. What we'll talk about at the very end of this is the Nakuda of Yechida Shabbat that madrega when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh, the Frat at a time of war. The need of Yechida is revealed at the time of Milchama. That's really what I want to bring all of this to do. We should understand that what we're living through right now. It's not just the limud that we're learning, it's ideas, this is mamish what we're living through. So we're learning about these madregas in Am Yisrael. So on the bottom of page Kuf Ches, I know it's hard to look on the phone, but you have the page. One Kishi Yisrael Alad Mosam Harem Keguf Echad Chai. When things are the way they're supposed to be, and we're living in our land, then we're Keguf Echad Chai. Then we're like a single, healthy, living body, a person. Kishrei HaMischar, all the ksharim that have to do with the economy, Ha'ezra, Hadadis, B'chumiyas, working together, even in physical things, like all the different parts of the body. Then Am Yisrael, when we're in Eretz Yisrael as a people, we're functioning as the way that a body functions. All the Evarim doing what they're supposed to. There are those that come from that are from the mind, and they're thinking and learning or studying and so on. And all the different Evarim of Am Yisrael come together in the right way. And each individual part of the body, each individual Jew, contributes what he can and what she can to the healthy, that the body of Am Yisrael should function in a healthy way. In order to create a kli, a healthy body, in order to be able to be a receptacle in the guf, just like the physical body, to be able to receive the iris of Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chai Yechida, so to Am Yisrael, when we're living in Eretz Yisrael, then we're able to become a kli to receive the higher iris of the neshama. Kuftes shlavei haizgalus shel revadim elo hem kishlavei haizgalus shelhem badim aprati. And the sequence, the order of the hizgalus of the different levels of neshama within Am Yisrael corresponds to the way that the levels of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yichida are revealed within the individual person. Ke'en bechlal, alamasha b'frat. Because whatever is taking place in the prat, in the individual person, is with Am Yisrael. Lefichach, therefore, b'tchila misrakem haguf. Therefore, the beginning of the healing of the Jewish people, returning to our land, is to regain our physical health and our security and so on. That's the beginning. Misrakem haguf. Just as the baby inside the mother's womb develops in that way, the guf mikoach nefesh shehi chiyuso, and the most basic elementary level of physical existence is the or of the nefesh, is enlivened by the nefesh. So that's the first isgalus, the nefesh. Rak la'achar shaguf bonu mefutach dayo. Only after the body has developed sufficiently, as mavshila hadas, just like with a baby, then the stage comes for Daas, for understanding and for awareness. The kabul iris el yonim yoser. So the child is now able to mature and be a kli to receive higher iris. And the higher levels of life are progressively appearing and manifesting in this body that is a healthy body. That's the way it works with the individual. It's the same thing with Am Yisrael. And with this we can understand the return of the Jewish people after we went through the Holocaust, after the Milchama, and we were physically, spiritually, emotionally decimated and destroyed. And we came back to Eretz Yisrael after Golus. It was a Yuvan Tahalach, of course, the process began before the Milchama, but especially afterwards, Achar Golus, she kilei the mechudeshes la'achar mavis, and that was like being reborn after, like Tchias HaMesim, after death. Golus is a bechin of death. We spoke about that a lot. B'tchila kol mish'avei ha'chaim b'das kainenu el or kuvnu el binyan haguf ha'atzamaso. Therefore, the beginning of our return to Eretz Yisrael, even before the war, at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century. So, as you all know, those were, to a large extent, those were people who had left behind in Europe their Yiddishkeit. To a large extent. Not exclusively, but mostly. They left behind their Yiddishkeit. And they were completely devoted, Amois Nefesh, to just developing the land, to building the land. After all the long years of Golus, to building El Binyan Haguf V'Hatzamaso, building the body and strengthening the body. So that early generation of Shivas Sion, of the return to Eretz Yisrael, they really were not particularly concerned with matters of the spirit. That wasn't the main concern. There was the old Yishuv, that they were there, and the two had nothing to do with each other. Rav Kook was always running back and forth to try to make shalom. But the new generation was bechlal, for the most part, was not interested in matters of the spirit. They were not holding by ruach, neshama, and higher. They were not holding by that. Their avodah was, at best, nefesh, guf, just to restore the nefesh and the physical safety and health of the Jewish people, which meant cleaning away the slums, v'chule, and hospitals, banks, an economy, an army, and so on. Be'ein Pnimiyus el madregas nisaos yoser, they were not turning to looking for higher madregas, just like in the vision of Yechezkel Hanavi of the dry bones. The beginning was the bones coming back together. Just they've been all the years scattered through Galus and broken apart, and the return begins with just the bones and and then the flesh growing, just regaining our health. But we're not concerned. Just like nobody sits around with an infant and teaches Aleph Beis to an infant. So we were like mamish, like infants, just needed to be nursed and to be brought back to health after thousands of years of gullus. And like a little child, we began our first little baby steps, taking our steps, having returned to Eretz Yisrael, just taking some steps. And those early generations that returned to Eretz Yisrael 100 years ago plus, their longing was simply la'olam ha'chushim v'achomer, just chushim and chomer, physical well-being. That's all. It was like that. It was like that after the Milchama also, and especially the survivors. For many of them, they didn't return to Yiddishkeit. I'm sure many of you know that they didn't return to Yiddishkeit till later on, and I had many talks with my father about this, and I've mentioned in the past, like when we would be in Williamsburg or on the Lower East Side. And my father would meet up with some old friend. They were hugging each other. They thought each one thought the other one was dead, and they were so happy to see each other. And this one's going with a long beard and payas and the whole thing. And my father says, "This is whatever. The uncle, we were together in Cheder. I heard that he was taken. I heard he was killed. I don't know." These are things that happen on a regular basis. Things like this. And my father would tell me that they were talking and they. After the Muhammad, there was no beard, there was no payas, there was no, you understand, there was no, many of them, there was no Shabbos, there was no Shabbos. They were just, my father explained this to me, what it was like those first few years. But not even Eretz Yisrael, those first few years just coming out of that valley of, that gates al-Mavis, of Dura, of death, that when they came out, it was, they just wanted a job and to eat, and to live. They weren't in the place yet of coming back to the Ruach. When I say they, it's a generalization, but a lot. They were not holding by Ruach and Neshama. Over time, of course, many of them came back. Some didn't, but many of them came back. And it took a while. And when we came to Eretz Yisrael earlier, after what was going on, what we were living through in Russia, and the Sfardim, how they were living in their lands, and the Jews came back to Eretz Yisrael, it was just really truth be told, because even back then the Sfardim were generally much more traditional. As Kedarka, they were more traditional, but the Ashkenazim, to a large extent, it was the old yeshiva. The new ones that came, they left Yiddishkeit. They weren't interested in Yiddishkeit. However, just like when it comes to the individual, the person that can't go on and on. The person matures and begins to think and begins to develop internally. And the movement of the soul that's maturing is longing for understanding, for Deya and Haskel. For light and for meaning and for so on. I was just reading. Somebody was kind enough to send me a new biography that came out about Elie Wiesel from Joseph Berger. I don't know if you remember. He used to write for the Times. So he was a very good writer. So it's a new biography of Elie Wiesel, and all that. Like he comes from a very similar background to my parents. He was from Sigurd, and they went through the same mahalach pretty much. And he was very honest about what those shlavim of and the unbelievable difficulty and pain of coming back and it's the same thing. Just at the beginning, just trying to make a few dollars and just to live, to get married and then they started going back to what was and to think about it and to rebuild the ruach and the neshama. This is what it means to leave Golos. So it requires that first time, that beginning, but eventually Chvetze b'dei v'haskel, be'or u'mashmos. Misgabros v'tovos komos chaim chadoshos. As the person and as the people, the nation matures, there is this demand for the higher levels of existence, for something higher. And we have to prepare. And these years have been to work on receiving these, to receive these higher iras. Soid neshama chaya yichida. The sod, the secret of neshama chaya yichida. Page Kuf Yud. Now here, Rav Sasson explains how remarkably these madregas of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yichida in the nation are embodied in our institutions. Now, what does that mean? So the Parshas Shoftim, haTorah medaberes al madregas nefesh, ruach, neshama, v'chai shel ha'am. In Shoftim, the Torah talks about these madregas of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, we'll talk about yichida afterwards, of the people. Elohim arbaz hamozdos hamerkazim v'chai ha'am, which we don't have now. And that's what the Vilna Gaon said, that until Mashiach comes, we're the nefesh, ruach, neshama, and chai and yichida of Am Yisrael as a people is really has not yet been revealed. What are the institutions that are at the Moshe Merkazim b'chayam? Melech, a king. We don't have a king. Sanhedrin. They tried to make a Sanhedrin. You remember that was in France. There was an attempt that was made. It didn't work out. And then in modern Israel, they also tried to make a Sanhedrin. It's a famous story about the Satan Rav and Rav Woodmere. You know the story. So there was a big tumult that they were trying to make a Sanhedrin in Eretz Yisrael by the short time after the Hakamat HaMedina, after the Medina. Of course, the Satan Rav was not fond of that enterprise, and Rav Woodmere was not thrilled about it either. And they were talking once and about how could they make a Sanhedrin. Rav Woodmere said to Satan Rav, one of the requirements of the Sanhedrin is you have to be Sonei Batza. You have to hate, despise money and bribes and so on. So where are you going to find nowadays? He said. So he asked the Satan Rav, where are you going to find the Rav nowadays? It's Sonei Batza. So some Rabbi said to him, "Vergelt, we can go from this. We can das. I don't have to translate that. You can pay somebody to be a Sonei Batza." So we don't have a Sanhedrin. We don't have a Sanhedrin. They have a lot of fine time to come. There's no Sanhedrin. Kohen Gadol v'Navi. Melech, Sanhedrin, Kohen Gadol v'Navi. And we were feeling just fine if the snow was plowed and it's a sunny day and we have what to eat and the kids are doing well, without a melech, without a Beis Hamikdash, without Kahuna, without a Sanhedrin, without a Navi. But this is the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya of Am Yisrael. Ein elu Pnimiyus protios. These are not just individual people, the king and the members of the Sanhedrin and Kohen Gadol and Navi. These are not just like private, special people. Ella merkazei chayim. They are the center of Jewish life. They embody and are the manifestation and the representation of the entirety of Am Yisrael. Hamavatim koima shlema b'chayim. Koima shlema b'chayim. Kamei b'guf, just like in the body. Bohalev achrei al mareches adam. Just like in the body, the heart is responsible for pumping out the blood and all of that. And the brain for the whole nervous system. Kain b'chayim. So too in Am Yisrael. Again, that corresponds to the body. Yeshnam evar merkazim. There's the mind, the heart, and so on. Those parts of the body that the neshama is tluya b'hem. That the life of Am Yisrael depends upon, from which come and flow life to the entire nation. So just like the Gemara makes a distinction between certain Eivarim, if a person, God forbid, loses a finger, he can live without a finger, and other things but there are parts of a person within the neshama that the life of a person depends on. So the life of Am Yisrael depends on these institutions. These organs, it's not institutions, not really the right word. They're not institutions, they're mamish, the heart, the mind, and so on. And life comes to the people from these places, from these people. We move on to Hamelach. We understand that the king is Merkaz Chaye Haguf VaNefesh Ba'am. The king is the nefesh and the body. He's responsible for the physical well-being of the nation, of the people. That's the king. That's his job. That's his the Gemara and in the Rambam, Hilchos Malachim, whatever the king's. That's the job of the king, to take care to make sure there are roads and taxes. That's the king. As Sanhedrin, Besod Shiur Kaimas HaRuach. This Sanhedrin is the energy, the life force of Ruach. I'll go through them in a second. And Kohen Gadol, V'Hamikdash is beside Or HaNeshama. V'Navi besor Or HaChaya. The Navi is the light of Chaya. Hamelach, the king, HaMoshe, is Omen al Sidur HaChayim HaChomim. The king is responsible to organize the physical life of the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael. That's the king's job. Misim, taxes, chayvus, adam, and so the responsibilities that the individuals have to the country, tzava, an army, chukim, memshal, of course, all the rules and so on. The soon will be Adam Melech. All these things will be Adam Melech. V'menahel es ha'am kuloi b'mishu hazeh sod chayi haguf. The king is responsible to take care of Am Yisrael. This is the sod of Chayi Haguf, that's the Nefesh. HaSanhedrin, He Merkaz Chayi HaTorah Ba'am. The Sanhedrin is the center of the life of Torah in Am Yisrael. And therefore the din is that, Ein Ma'amidin Melech Ela Alpi, in order to have a king, you have to have an obvious Sanhedrin and so on, because it has to be with the Nishmas Yisrael. But the Sanhedrin is responsible for the Chayi HaTorah Ba'am. Zeh Soid Kaimas HaRuach. That's the sod of Ruach in Am Yisrael, the Sanhedrin. Sod Limud HaTorah, right? Psak Halacha, Limud HaTorah, the final place of deciding matters of Halacha, of Torah. Shu Olam HaDaas VaMachshava HaKodesh Shel Yisrael. It's the brain of Am Yisrael. Or not actually not the brain, but the ruach, which is the das and the machshava, the thoughts, HaKodesh Yisrael. HaRuach Meshutefes im HaNefesh. The ruach has to work in a healthy way with the nefesh. Now, historically, there was often tension between the Melech and the Sanhedrin, or the Melech and the Navi. And we had a lot of problems, especially with the institution of Malchus. It is not for the most part, it's not a history that we're particularly proud of. And Malchus, since it's the guf, the nefesh is the guf, just like our own guf, the nefesh, often runs away with itself and gets and detaches itself from ruach, neshama, and so on. So too, we when we look back at the Malachim, there were tzaddikim, but there were those that don't look to us like they were big tzaddikim at all, and especially in the later years, it was a very difficult parsha. It's supposed to be working. The king is supposed to make himself subservient to the Sanhedrin, to the Kahuna, and to the Navi, just as the body is supposed to be machni itself to the Nefesh Elokis and so on. When we met at Boim, halachas ma'isius, the Sanhedrin is responsible for the halachas ma'isius. Shemakavnos es haguf, just like our bodies, our physical lives have to be subservient to the Sanhedrin of who we are, which is our learning Torah, and our body has to follow the orders of the tzaddikim, the Talmidei Chachamim, and the Poskei Halacha, and so on. So too, the Jewish people, as a nation, the nefesh, the guf, meaning the king, has to follow the dictates of the Sanhedrin. And through halacha and through the Sanhedrin, the Jewish people would be lifted up higher than just being just being a regular people like other nations. Shenad l'shmirasa b'yusa. So the king is responsible for the security and the physical well-being, but that's not the tachlis of Am Yisrael. Just to be healthy and to be safe. That's the basic level of nefesh. But that's not the tachlis. That's not the ultimate goal. That's not the purpose of life. You could be healthy and you could have security. Well, maybe not so much security. Living someplace else. That doesn't just to stop at the level of nefesh is not the tachlis. Pulos elu, v'zakakais es haguf. When the king is subservient to the Sanhedrin, to halacha, then the body is purified, is refined, and through the king, the Jewish people as a people are refined. Umakavnes also lios machon lahashor elyona, and the guf is prepared to be able to receive the higher light, the or of neshama and so on. Elu sod hamitzvos shelo sochen l'chol goy. So Hashem gave us a whole Torah mitzvahs that our bodies are constantly engaged in all types of physical actions to refine the body in order to be able to reveal the or of the neshama. Ki chayi haguf shel ha'umos eina nogea me'ever lemisha hachamri. Because as far as the other nations of the world are concerned, even though they also have thinkers and philosophers and professors and so on, and poets and so writers, but the Pnimiyus, they don't have this madrega of nishmas Yisrael, and therefore the tachlis of the other nations of the world is that there should be that people should be able to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. In other words, to be safe and to be secure. That's the job of the government, and to just see to it that people could then be able to, if ilmoli mareshal malchus, the Mishnah says, ish esveiv chayim below, which means that the most important role of the monarchy or of the government is to stop people from killing each other and to prevent them from robbing each other, killing each other, and destroying each other. But as far as content and Pnimiyus, that's not the union of malchus. And that's why Havdil Elef Alfei Adolos, there were huge conflicts between the church and the kings throughout history as well. It was labor, they were killing each other the whole time. And that because of that tension between the guf and the ruach. I don't mean, I'm mistaking ruach Henderson, I'm saying it's ruach of sheker. But on their level, that conflict between the guf and the ruach caused tremendous tension between the church and the state. But all of that compared to Am Yisrael is not ruchnius, it's not neshama. It's all the b'chin of nefesh. Lo kein Yisrael. Shagufam noad lios kli l'nishmas kodesh. The body of every Jew was created to be a kli for the neshama. That's his tachlis. And Am Yisrael, as a physical nation, exists in order to be a kli to receive the or of the neshama. And without the Sanhedrin, the Melech can't do that. Without halacha, without Torah, you can't do that. As a people, we can't do that. We can't be a kli for the neshama without the ruach of Am Yisrael, which is the Sanhedrin. So it's not enough just to take care of the guf, of the body. It's not enough. Gamas orach chayei mitzvahs. A life of mitzvahs, because the nations don't have such a thing. Even the mitzvahs b'nei Noach is to just see to it that they function in a healthy and safe way, but not in terms of the Pnimiyus. Shikashu also haneshama v'chol yeser ha'toros alyonos. The mitzvahs give us that connection to be able to receive the higher iris of neshama chai and yechida, to reveal that in Am Yisrael as a people. There was a clip that a few people sent me today about a woman that was speaking. I don't know her name. You know who she is?
The same woman that we saw earlier in the thing that she was talking outside, remember? I can't remember her name.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's the same woman.
Yeah, so she was talking about how...
Vanessa, right?
It wasn't taking place, not in the main room of the Knesset. It looked like it was some sort of side room or maybe a different place. But she was talking very, very strong. It's Gdalya to listen to, very, very strong. I mean, I think as a secular person, she's not, but she was screaming about how we did all of this for all these years. We did all of this work to build ourselves up as a people, but we have nothing. We have nothing. She even said, not the Ramchal, not the Ariya Kodesh, is not a religious person. She said, I grew up and I was taught nothing about Yiddishkeit, who we are. I was completely ignorant. Now on my own, I was taught. We're raising, she said, we raised a whole country of Jews without Yiddishkeit. And she said a very strong thing. She said, what makes Hamas? Because she said, the Hamas, they believe in things that they want to die for, that they're ready to die for the tumah, but they're people, or animals, whatever they are, but they're filled with emunas, all kinds of emunas and days. I mean, kaisers, of course, Khalil, not kosher things, but they're filled with the ruach chayim. And we were raised with nothing. And the secular, we were raised with that. We were raised with mamish with nothing. And she said Nigzalnu, and she said that they stole from us. You stole our Yiddishkeit from us. The state stole. You stole our Yiddishkeit. You took away our Yiddishkeit. If you wouldn't see who she is, I don't know her name, but the whole tzura there, you'd think that this was like from some rabbis from the Eidah Haredis that's talking. She's telling the truth. That's what happened. In other words, the Medina was obsessed. It's understandable, but the Medina was obsessed with the Madrega of Nefesh, and just surviving and getting back on our feet. And once we did, Baruch Hashem, they just sort of lost their swing, and they didn't come back. The secular part of Eretz Yisrael, our brothers and sisters that didn't come, B'Shem Mitzvahs, they built a Jewish state without Yiddishkeit.
Galit Distel at Barian.
What's her name?
Galit Distel at Barian.
Yeah. She spoke very, very, very sharp, very, very good, and what she said was the truth, and so this is what happens when you try to build the guf. You're a good bodybuilder, but there's no neshama. There's no without mitzvahs. You could be smart. You could write all kinds of fancy books about the Baal Shem Tov or something, and get a PhD in Hebrew University or Bar Ilan, but it doesn't have a neshama. It doesn't bring anybody back to Torah. It doesn't bring to anything. And that's what she was crying about. People are waking up now all over, and they're waking up and they see, like, you gave us nothing. They had with these the Hastis Baruch Hashem came, they yesterday, 2 days ago, I don't know what it was. So this woman, she never lit candles in her life. In her life, it was the first time she ever lit Shabbos candles. In her life, a Jewish woman, or like I told you a few weeks ago, there was something they were saying that they grew up to 60 years old plus. She was never once in Yerushalayim. Once in Yerushalayim. It can't be massive such a thing. No interest at all. Yerushalayim was like for the Dasim, it's for the Fruma. It's not for me. Right? And now we see there's an awakening, and there's this feeling of we were robbed. We have nothing. Because a melech or a malchus, a state without ruach, there's no kli to receive the or of the neshama. And that's the story of modern Israel. Not the whole story, but a big part of it, of what happened. And Mr. Shem's going to be corrected. It's going to be fixed. Hopefully, everybody should be healthy and safe. So, he says, Zel tafkidim shel Sanhedrin, shugui chayim b'ayimei, omdim me'al l'shelos ha'chom levado. This is the job of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is responsible for the laws of a higher life, not just to live. But now that you're alive, what for? What are you living for? Hamasur Mal HaMelech V'Hanagas. So that's the king's job is the body. HaKohen Gadol. Now we come to Beis HaMikdash. So HaKohen Gadol, America's Chaya and Neshama Shalom Yisrael. That's the Beis HaMikdash is the Neshama, the Kohen Gadol. And Neshama he or Elokus. Now we're talking about the light of Elokus. Hamlubish B'Sarach HaGuf that's enclosed in the body. Beside HaMikdash, it's the Beis HaMikdash. It's the Neshama of Am Yisrael, it's the Beis HaMikdash. Ofas HaShechina Al Bayis Mamashi. The appearance of the Shechina, the resting of the Shechina on a physical building. In a physical building, in a guf. Mokem HaMikdash. Hu Beis HaTfilah. The Kudas HaGagua VaKisuf from Hashem is the point of longing for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. La'avodas Kodesh Shel Dveikus Ilah, for Dveikus B'Hashem. B'Shiras HaLeviim, and the singing of the Leviim. B'Seder Avodas HaKahanim, La'avodas HaKahanim. HaMikdash Poseches Ofek Chaya Am El Mochayzos Atzum. The Beis HaMikdash opens up the horizon of the Jewish people of the nation to very, very powerful places, to powerful madrigas. They stand higher than all of the physical things of this world. They give the Jewish people the ability to encounter Elokus, to meet Hashem. To be filled with love, a powerful love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ka'ahavas HaKruvim, like the ahava that was symbolized by the Kruvim. Hama'urim Bebeis Kodesh Kadosh, when they would turn and hold each other and look by the Kodesh Kadosh. Shom Matzonu as Shahava Nafshein. There in the Beis HaMikdash, we found Shahava Nafshein. Manoach Lehem Yas Levavenu, and there the longing of our the longing of our hearts was able to be satisfied. The delight of the Chai HaRuach. Avyacha al Beis Imi, as it says in Shiur Shirim, Zeh Beis HaMikdash. I will bring you to my mother's home. Zeh Beis HaMikdash, that's the Beis HaMikdash. Hanavi, then there's the high madriga of Chaya. That's the Navi. Mevates madrigas achaya b'chlal ha'am. The Navi is the manifestation of the madriga of Chaya in the nation and the people. Hu asher olamei al kol hislabshus b'chaya aguf. This is very higher than anything that's connected to the body. Nishma, like we learned, the Chaya is not even really not the body. Nishma shota b'mroimim. Here the neshama is soaring higher than the body. Umisham mamshich as Dvar Hashem l'kol Yisrael. To bring the Dvar Hashem, the Navi brings the Dvar Hashem to all of Am Yisrael. The Navi is, that's why when the Navi would have, except for Moshe Weinberger, the Navi would have his galus, his body would fall apart, he would just pass out. It's something which is high, the Chaya, be his galus of Chaya, to bring the Dvar Hashem to the Jewish people. Zeh soid or Chaya. This is the sod of the light of Chaya. Shefa she'ein haguf yochel lamod bo l'galoisa. This is a shefa, this is an or that the physical body can't really contain. That's why the Navi's body would collapse. Omnam ein movo moitzel or hanavua elim Beis HaMikdash. But without the Beis HaMikdash, there is no real ability to sustain nevuah, prophecy. Mimokim hashros haneshama. Even though there were stopovers in the koch of nevuah in the absence of a Beis HaMikdash, or before there was a Beis HaMikdash, but it's not sustainable. Because Chaya is the madrega of nishmas haneshama, the soul of the soul. And the kuda Pnimiyus b'yoseh shebor haneshama. Therefore, historically, there was also tension between Nevi'im and Kahanim. It's a whole separate story. That was not Pashat either. It's amazingly. Lachain, the Mokum Bom Mi'ira HaNeshama, because you think it was the Nishmas and the Neshama, there should be. So for all of these madregas to work together with each other, that's Mashiach. Yuchlu Habanim HaNevcharim, Sarei Kodesh Al Yonah, La'achil b'chem es or she'ein kol Yisrael v'cholim l'roisa. Ve'ema she'yaviu es dvar Hashem b'kol Yisrael. And there was a time, the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, where there were tens of thousands of Nevi'im. That everybody had a brother or a cousin that was a Nevi. Thousands of Nevi'im. It was an aura of Nevuah that was in Eretz Yisrael at the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. Ubemes lost the love, you call Am Hashem Nevi'im. And the biggest promise of the end of time is that Eshberch Ruchi, Hashem's going to pour his ruach, and every single one of us, we're going to all be Nevi'im. Ubemes lost the love, you call Am Hashem Nevi'im. So even children are going to be saying Nevuah. So call Am Hashem Nevi'im. Ki yiten Hashem as rucha aleim. When the ruach of Hashem will be once again will be upon us. V'yizko kulam lirais heichalis elyonim, and will be zeich to have unbelievable visions of heichalis elyonim. Every single Jew will be in such a place of being zeich to heichalis, to experience heichalis elyonim. Mibad la'or neshama mei b'levush mamashi. Beyond even the or of the neshama, that the or of the neshama is mislabish in the body, will be able to transcend the body in such a way. The neshama is made b'levush mamashi the Beis HaMikdash will have back with us the Beis HaMikdash. Now we still didn't talk yet about Yechida, so we have to see what that is, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Nakuda of Yechida by Mesiras Nefesh, and then we'll get to the Sefiros of Mitzvah Shem.